Still do 7 NUFC Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications option. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true.
And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe.
Welcome along to NUFC Matters. It is time for Ask George.
Hi, everybody.
Good evening, George. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Yes,
Good
absolutely.
stuff, mate. Good stuff. Good to see you, mate, as always. And we've got an hour of questions for George. Nice little build-up for the Champions League game tonight. I'm not actually at the match tonight, so I'll be settled in watching it on the TV like everybody else in the chat, and looking forward to the game, no matter what the result. Will it be the Newcastle that rolls over and gets its tummy tickled tonight, or will it be the Newcastle United that comes out firing on all cylinders? It takes the game by the scruff of the neck and avoids 2 playoff games by getting into the last 16 automatically. Time will tell. Time will tell. Okay, we had some emailed questions, so I'll come to them first. George, from John Askew. George, can you help? I've got a couple of questions, he said, but there's a tiny bit of background. Villa on Sunday was a sea change for me, and I'm a bit surprised, to be honest. I mean, I never thought I'd be typing this, but for the first time since the takeover, I'm feeling despondent and a bit apathetic. I'm obviously concerned about what's going on the pitch, but should I be more worried about off-field business? As ever, I'd appreciate your wisdom, but if it's not possible, don't worry. I know I'm not the only one seeking your perspective, so here goes. So his first question, 4-3-3 with a high press is Eddie's way. It's probably not changing anytime soon, but there's hardly a Magpie fan out there who doesn't think a little more flexibility would help, as predictability has almost become our identity, and the opposition have worked us out. The most frustrating thing for me against Villa was the awful huff and puff stuff we served up, which basically involved, particularly in the second half, lots of short passing around Villa's penalty area in the final third, which in no way really looked like blowing the house down. All you need to do is get men behind the ball and it's basically job done. And so it was for Villa. And then it's the usual 3-on, 3-off around the 65-minute mark, inevitably like for like, virtually no variation and leaving the opposition with nothing to think about. And we're trying a high-press game with Wissa and Walter Marder, who appear totally unsuitable for the role. The other guys now at Anfield, I could go on, but my question is, should Eddie be more flexible? And if so, in what way should he be flexible?
Well, the answer is, from me, is yes, I'd like to see him be a bit more flexible, because for me on Sunday, it was from the first 10 minutes, the game was sorted for me as far as I was concerned, because it was quite clear that Villa's 4 in the middle were all going to overrun our 3, whichever 3 were in the middle for us. And I don't take the absence of Bruno lightly, but I don't think he would have made that much difference, to be perfectly honest. And the game was set there. And then the other thing is that while we have this professed notion that Eddie doesn't like 4-4-2, yet it wasn't long, 50 minutes at most, when he called Barnes over to the touchline, and you could see he was instructing Barnes to stay closer to Wissa. Well, he then was playing 4-4-2, but more like an unbalanced 4-4-3-3. He upset his own setup and didn't really go into something else to change the game. So I was disappointed about Sunday, but I always cheered by the fact that good players don't become bad players overnight, and they can always pull something out of the bag in the right circumstances. And for some reason, I think I have a reason. For some reasons, Champions League suits them, and that's because the opposition were play into our hands in some ways, and playing in a particular way. PSV the other night was clear from the off that they were just there to mark Bruno out of the game, and they thought they could win the game by doing that. Well, it was a disaster for them, because we caught twice on a very high press, because their midfield were looking for Bruno, and Bruno wasn't there. So it is very, very disappointing. The off the field business, well, like everybody else, I looks like I'm going to be as disappointed as anybody else with this transfer window, because it doesn't look like it's going to happen. On the other hand, I do recall that there's been a couple of windows when it didn't look like it was going to happen, and then suddenly, a couple of days before the end, players appear, like Bruno did, like Isak did, like Botman did. That could happen, but I wouldn't put my mortgage on it. But he's so tight-lipped about that. So we've got to get on and do what's necessary. The wider issues off the pitch for me is how the owners continue to deal with PSR, whatever initials you give it, and do we continue to accept it? Because it's quite clear that we're still working with rules that are specifically designed to stop Newcastle United making progress, although it's starting to hurt people like Villa and Forest and Everton, and they're starting to complain now. Well, surely the time's got to come when somebody says, hey, we can't have rules that are just designed to hurt us, and do something about it. Whether they will or not, I don't know. They seem as though they're determined to stick to the Premier League rules. Wonder if they actually give an undertaking when they made the takeover that they wouldn't go to court about things. I don't know, but certainly there needs to be some changes. Certainly for next year, if not sooner. But I'd like to see some changes. Although, if you look at the way the Manchester City thing's going on, it looks like there's even more charges going in against them. Does it slow them down? They just seem to ignore it and carry on. So there are some issues off the pitch as well as on the pitch that need to be looked at.
Yep, certainly are. Okay, the second part of his question. Off the pitch, we just haven't been the same since Amanda and Mirdad. The Eales-Mitchell combo was an inferior gravy, and precisely what Mitchell was doing is open to all sorts of conjecture. In the good old days, transfer windows came, we would have a really good one, and then they would close. But what happens now? Frankly, very little. Great opportunity to drive the club forward is spurned. Look at what's happening at the minute. Many of our rivals are active, but we appear not to be so. And in the unlikely event of us actually signing someone, it would be very much the exception rather than the rule. I still have faith in our owners, but can we trust those in the Barrack Road corridors to deliver the goods for the Toon Army? He says, I've gone on a bit, so if there's not enough time to cover this, and that's no problem for obvious reasons, I really hope you enjoyed the rest of your day. You just never know. So, yeah, I mean, are the owners going to splash the cash, do you think, in this window? Yes or no, really?
My thoughts on this window, I don't think so. I think they're keeping the powder dry till the summer. because I think there'll be some quite big changes in the summer, both financially and otherwise. The comments he makes about what happened with Mitchell, etc., are very valid. I know I've said it before, but I don't mind saying it again because I truly believe it. When somebody comes into a club like Mitchell with the reputation he brought and instantly starts talking about his team, my team will do this, my team will do that, and as a manager sitting there in the background thinking, well, whose team? That must have been the worst start that Eddie Howe could have had from a sporting director. And then when I looked at his background, here's a man comes into a club that's got a 5-year plan, and he's never stayed in a job more than 3 years. So what sort of questions did they ask him when he came to the interview? Or was that all left to a recruitment agency, which I suspect it was? And I've got to say that that's an area where I think they need to look. Who's doing this? Who's this recruitment agency they're using? Because they don't seem very clever as far as we're concerned. Darren Eales, I regret the poor man had to leave us for health reasons. But again, when he came within the first month, and I saw videos of him on the stage at the Stack singing the Bladen Races, my shoulders and back shuddered because I was watching Ashley Part 2. He thought he could sing the Bladen Races and get away with murder. Well, we didn't need another one. And again, he came with an incredible reputation. But what the reputation did for Newcastle United, I couldn't see it. And then there seemed to be a big gap between him and what was happening below. And the worrying thing about that for me there were issues around, and there are still issues around since the takeover that hurt fans, and that grieves me greatly. Anything that's damaging to fans is just a no-no for me, and yet still things are happening. And if we got a CEO and those just beneath them who have their finger on the pulse, they'd be looking at these things and doing something about them. I hope the new guy is, because he seems to be going about his business very, very, very well. But the proof of the pudding's in the eating, as they say, and we have to wait and see. But there are, myriad of little things which somebody with their finger on the pulse would have started to put right, and they just haven't. And there's still things trotting out of the woodwork that really shouldn't, and upset me greatly as a fans, because they're the one things they're the things that affect fans. And while I'm passionate supporter of this takeover since it happened and before, I'm still bits in the background which trouble me, and they're the ones that are important to me, are the ones about how fans are treated in different ways. And unfortunately, some of those ways still look like Ashley ways, and that shouldn't be happening. That should be gone, absolutely gone by now. So yeah, there's all sorts of things, John, and you're right to raise them and continue to raise them, because that's the only way something might get done. Because we know these things get reported back by various people, and long may it continue. So thanks for the heads up, John. I don't mind at all.
Stephen Kennedy, good evening. He said, George, do you think, and I hope he's right, what Stu thinks about our ability to spend big again this summer? I've got a feeling it could be a difficult window again, and it's a World Cup year, so all the world's best players will be unavailable to transfer until the tournament is over. Those whose stars shines over there will see about 20 million added on 20,000, added onto their asking price. Although I think 20 million is probably closer to the mark. And there is the Tyne Saudi tax to be added. I fear we may be taking in players without a pre-season again, which, like last summer, means the season will start with those players playing catch up again. You would like to think the club have deals sitting waiting to be done, but somehow I just can't see it myself. Do you think we're going to be pleasantly surprised come June or July, or will it be the same old coming out of the club like they're feeding us at present? And for most of the season, truth be told, I don't know about you, but the old record played over and over by Eddie is becoming to sound scratched. Maybe the club needs some new records or a new record player, from Harry Half Glass Empty, as he's calling himself now.
Yeah. Well, straight away, I've got to hang my hat on. I think Stu and I are now the happy clappers of the supporters group, and I tend to agree with Stu, as I've just said before in the previous answer. I'm convinced that they're waiting for next summer to do all sorts of financial things, and I don't just mean financial things in regard to buying players. I mean sponsorships, real sponsorships that will turn all of quite a lot of the things that are worrying us on their head. So I'm, like Stu, I'm well, as sure as I can be that this is what will happen, and they're saving their powder they're keeping their powder dry till the summer window, and doing things in a big way. I suspect. I think we'll see some major sponsorships as well as major buy-ins. The issue around the World Cup is an interesting one. It's not always the players that go to World Cups that necessarily are the ones you want to buy anyway, because there are some good players who don't get to a World Cup who would quite nicely fit in the Premiership in all sorts of countries. I mean, there are already some of the names that I see being bandied around in terms of defenders, both in Italy and France and elsewhere, are being touted as being extremely good players, yet don't look near the World Cup in some ways. So I'm, I'm not so sure that the World Cup will be such an influence. You're right, Steve's absolutely right about the pricing, though, that you go for somebody that's a headliner in the World Cup and you add 20 million on, and you then have to sort out wages and agents' fees, and suddenly you're paying 30 million over the odds. But I do think, like Stu, that the summer's the time that things will change measurably. I'm still not discounting the some maybe one in this window, but I'm more happy and positive about what's coming around in the summer rather than now.
Okay, Moses says rather be a happy clapper than a glass half empty, George. Michael Bull says we got totally outclassed on Sunday. How bad was the referee, though? You're right. The officiating, Michael. Honestly, it's awful in this league at the moment. Barry says, George, do you feel like a lot of fans that Eddie's inability to adapt the team and formation will cost him his position eventually? I keep wondering, if he hadn't won a trophy, would he have already gone? Says Barry.
It's of concern, Barry, and I try not to be overcritical on the platforms that I go on, because I want to be positive about my team. But I've got to say, Sunday for me wasn't just a battle of the two teams. If it was a battle of the teams in terms of statistics, we won 70-odd% possession. But you don't win matches on possession. You win matches on tactical nous. Now, anybody who watches football knows that Aston Villa score goals aplenty from outside the penalty area. It's their trademark. And yet we allowed their midfielder the freedom of the park to pick his spot and leave for hope with no chance at all. And the other thing was the failure to adapt. I'm trying to think of, the other night I watched, I don't know if anybody else watched Everton versus Leeds. In the first half, Leeds tore Everton apart, and Everton were lucky to go in at half time to only be 1-0 down. And yet when the second half started, Moyes had made 3 changes, and Everton were a different team. Everton were a different team. And the boot was on the other foot. It was Leeds that were having to defend. Now, a hand on heart, I can't remember us doing that in that position. What I do remember is us having a 2-0 lead and then ended up at the end of the game hanging on to that lead or hanging on to a draw at the end, which is quite disappointing. And frankly, the person for me who has to take the biggest responsibility, that aren't just the players, has to be those at the sideline who are calling the shots and making the substitutions. The other thing about Sunday, to take Tonali off, whether he was saving him for tonight or not, I don't know. But to take him off when he did, when Tonali was clearly the only man on that pitch, or maybe Lewis Miley as well, the only man on that pitch that looked like he could upset Villa, because he was getting through and having the odd shot. Well, it seemed to me we'd give up the game then. It's almost as though we'd said, all right, we'll just stick it 2-0. Instead, stick it 1-0 rather. And of course we didn't. We ended up 2-0. So that troubled me. Yeah, there were just other odds and sods which didn't hang well for me in terms of our tactical nous and our ability to change things and make the game and change the game in a meaningful way. And I repeat, that's not because we haven't got good players. We have got good players. I don't subscribe to the theory that players suddenly become bad players overnight. It just doesn't happen. But we've got to use them right, and I'm not sure that we are at the moment.
Okay, Tino got a bad knock in the first half, says Neil. Yeah, you're right, he did.
Yeah.
Oscar Bob is heading to Fulham from City. Are we just happy to drift away at a mid-table conclusion? It's very weird and a little disturbing. What's going on is open to debate, says John. Barry asks you another question. He says, George, what do you think went wrong with Alfie Harrison? He was meant to be the next big thing. I mean, we have had a lot of these players come in, haven't we, in recent years who've been called the next big thing. Mainly by the media, though, George.
Well, yes, except that Harrison is the one that Manchester City didn't particularly want to go, and even Pep was labelled him, the next big thing for them. Foden, is it their player? He was the next Tim. That was what we're being told, and yet we've not seen any of that at all. He's had some decent games in the under 21s and so on, but not setting the world alight like we thought he would do. And similarly with one or two others that were supposed to be of that ilk, just haven't come through in the way in which Lewis Miley came through, for example. And it seems to me that Eddie's shown with Miley and maybe one or two others, that he's prepared to give these lads a chance if they show their mettle. But Harrison just disappeared. It was sad, really, in many ways. But he was supposed to be something special, and that, I know that might be a big tag to hang around somebody's neck. But on the other hand, they're professionals. That's what they're there for, to show us what they can do. We've lost too many, in my opinion, and that's an area where we need to be doing something. I find it interesting we're talking like this when the guy who was brought from Manchester United to look after the under 21s has suddenly disappeared after 6 months. What was there did they have a meeting and somebody say to him why? Write down why you want to go, etc. Or is there other reasons, whether personal reasons? It does worry me that that's happening at the same time as we seem to be losing some of these young people.
Okay. Question for George from Dave. Your top 3 favourite non-Newcastle players all time, don't have to be present players.
Oh, goodness gracious. When I was first really involved with football as a child, not just as a young person, there were a number of hot properties around, like Stanley Matthews and others. But the one who used to excite me more than anything was Tom Finney from Preston North End. Tom Finney could play outside left, outside right, centre forward, and be very good in any of those positions. And I think he played in all those positions for England as well. So Tom Finney was one of my very, very favourite players. If I can go international, top player of all time for me has got to be Pelé. I've not seen another player like Pelé. And coming back to England, then somebody whose name I mentioned quite a lot next to Lewis Miley, and that's Duncan Edwards of the Busby Babes. Duncan Edwards was an incredible player. Could play anywhere, any position at all, and be good. He could be centre half one week, centre forward the next week, and score a hat trick. He just was unbelievable. Such a physical specimen as well, just like Miley's become with us, with the help of the training staff at Newcastle. And great ability on the ball, great ability heading the ball, and pace. Everything about him was fantastic. And it's sort of kind of, he gets there by not too unusual means in some ways, because Duncan Edwards was a great athlete. You know, at school he was the top 100 meters man, the top 400 meters man. He was the top shot putter. You know, he was a real athlete, and so Duncan Edwards was there. And come a bit closer to home, if I'm allowed one more. I can't mention good players without mentioning Peter Beardsley. It is difficult not in any company at all. I mean, I've deliberately not chosen Alan Shearer. Alan Shearer is amazing, but in terms of Newcastle players, Peter Beardsley is the one who takes some beating. You know, box to box midfielder, hard worker, good shot on either foot, goal scorer, you name it. Peter Beardsley could do it, and he could do it with ease. So there's a sample of my football history, if you like.
Pelé would have given up all 3 World Cup wins and 1,000 goals to have played just one game for Newcastle, says Neil. And Wolf Morning says, young boy Peter runs like a cheetah. Beardsley's going to be your world, Peter. Great song, Wolf Morning. Question for George. What is your most enjoyable experience with a French team, home or away?
With a French team?
Yes.
Oh, the 4-1 thumping of our opponents tonight at St James's Park. That was a night to remember. 4-1. They thought they could sail through that game. You know, and remember, they had just bought Mbappe, and they were parading all sorts of great players. They never touched us. Never touched us. It was a real night to remember. And I have to say, that's those nights, I think, that really livened everybody up. They give us a look back at how it was when Sir Bobby was there and all the others. And yeah, that's the French team that highlights for me. There's no question about
that. What does tonight rank in terms of most important European nights, George?
Well, it's got to be up there with the best. I'm not sure whether our fans totally understand the meaning of it, because you know, we've been having a bit of a go at Eddie, etc., and some of the answers. But remember where we are, and remember where we are when he arrived. And here we are in our second foray into the European Champions Cup in 4 years, and this time. Last time we should have been in the semi-final, and we got robbed by a weird decision. Somebody mentioned about officials before. I missed that, and I wanted to say something about that. Anyway, so here we are again. But this time, if we could get a result tonight, you know, people keep saying if they win tonight. I think even if we get a draw tonight, we would go in. It'll be into the automatic playoffs and not have to play 2 extra games, which in football terms doesn't sound a lot, but in terms of what's happening elsewhere, in the league and in the FA Cup and so on, the Carabao Cup, all still going on. It'd be very useful to get rid of those extra 2 games. And look at the company we would be in. It's incredible. See Newcastle United up there with the best of Europe. Some of them touted as best club sides in the world, and yet we're there. And so this is as important in my book as any other European trip that we've had, and that's how I'm reviewing it tonight. I mean, I must confess, I'm as nervous now as when I used to play. It's almost as though I was going to put my socks on, my boots on shortly for the game. That's how excited I am. So yeah, it's a very important night.
Rob is in the chat. He says, "Brilliant show, George. I admire and respect your knowledge." Thank you, Rob.
Very kind. Thank you, Rob.
Okay, how
I'm a
long?
fan, Rob. That's all.
That's it. Question from Roger. It shouldn't be hypothetical, but if we still have Eddie Howe next season, will the summer allow Walter Marder and Wissa to flourish more in attack?
Well, I would hope so. That's a conundrum that bothers me slightly, because, well, I say slightly because we bought Wissa, and yet everybody labels them the number 9, and they've given them the number 9. When he was at Brentford and he scored all his goals, he actually played on the right. It was the bloke that went to Manchester United who scored all the goals. So it's centre forward. So I think it's not just those two. There has to be arrangement of the front 4 or 5 that we've got in the squad, and make decisions about how we play in a way in which they can all be effective. But that, as always, as Steve often says, Eddie Howe's paid the big bucks to sort that out. I just hope he can. And I didn't mention Valdemar. I don't mind admitting I like Valdemar. And if you have any doubt about the lad, look back at the game against Leeds where he laid the 2 goals on for Harvey Barnes. The first one with the outside of the foot pass into Barnes' pass that put in the net, and the second was the cushioned pass into Barnes' way to score his second goal. And they're the things that players learn in training. They're things that players learn practicing themselves usually, and he's got that touch. And just to seal any doubts, 3 months ago, the German manager and hierarchy were sort of easy dozy about the World Cup because they didn't think they had a chance. Suddenly, even they are talking about, oh, we might have a chance at this because we've got a centre forward. And you watch the games he plays for Germany and the goals he scores for Germany, and you'll see that what we bought is a very, very intelligent, very quick player. Although I see people on our fan base saying he can't run, which I find absolutely laughable. So yeah, we need to harness all that in for Newcastle United as well as international.
Okay, cracking on with the questions. We'll do the ads at the end. Where do you stand on the Mourinho as Tyne manager at some stage debate? Is it too late in his career, George, says Barry?
Well, that would be my danger, Barry. That's a good point. But I've got to say, if it came to pass and the man really wanted to do it, my natural instinct would say, well, what's he if he doesn't want to come and do something special? What's he coming for? He's made his reputation. He doesn't have to start all over again. And I would if he comes, he would get my backing like any other manager that came to Newcastle United. It would be a fascinating story, I've got to say. And the absolute respect he has for our football club and the things around it, he would come with a. I don't think he would come unless he really felt he could do something. So if he comes, he'd get me support, Barry. But I have my doubts that he would want to start again, is the honest answer.
Okay, next question. George, do you support a Scottish team, says Rob?
Yes, Rob. I'm have family who live in Aberdeen, and as a youngster, I used to go to Aberdeen for most of my summer holidays and the school holidays. And football in Scotland always started about 3 or 4 weeks before the English game, and so I used to go to Pittodrie with my family and watch the opening games of the Aberdeen of the Scottish League. They used to break the leagues up. They used to have 3 divisions, and they would mix all the teams up in all the divisions and draw them into fours. So you got a four, which was sometimes you'd get a Premiership, a first division team, a second division team, third division team, or 2 Premiership teams. And it made for interesting watching. But from me as a kid, I watched teams like Queen's Park, Brecon City, and names like that, which were just fairy tales. But it was fascinating watching. So Aberdeen is the short answer to your question. Is a family connection.
Roger is on fire tonight. He says we've got good numbers crossing stats. George, is it their quality or the finishing that's the problem at Newcastle at the moment?
Oh, at the moment it's we're getting balls into the middle on the floor and up the height. The conundrum is that we seem to be crossing the high ones when Voltemar's not on the pitch, and the low ones when Wissa's not on the pitch. No, we do put some fantastic crosses in. I'm trying to think. Oh, there was one at there was a couple at Leeds, which really should have been put away and settled the game, and just fizzed across their box without anybody, them or us, touching it. And the same on other games, even on Sunday. Although Gordon did make a hash of a couple of the crosses that went over the line, there were others that came in which were fizzing across the penalty area, and we just didn't seem to get a touch on them. I mean, the other thing about Sunday and about us generally is that I wish we'd find somebody, or we'd go back to somebody, or give Tonali the more opportunity to shoot from outside the penalty area. We seem determined to walk the ball in, which is very frustrating. But the crosses, Murphy does it well, Barnes does when he gets a chance, and so does Gordon. So I think it's sorting out what happens in the middle of the penalty area is the problem.
Paul Charlton, good evening. He says his Scottish team is Falkirk. Pablo, good evening. He says, George, would any of our front 2 walk into any other Premier League teams outside the bottom 4 or 5?
Any of our front 2?
Well,
yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, Wissa would walk into his old team at Brentford. I'm sure they would be happy to have him back. And Voltemada, well, I think we would get a shock if we offered him for sale. I think a number of clubs would be happy to have him on the basis of how he plays for Germany alone. And I'm trying to think what sort of club he would be a good fit behind some of the talent that Arsenal have, for example. They've been crying out for a striker for ages, somebody that could come from behind, and he's ideal for that. So I think he would get picked up very quickly if he was on offer.
Okay, interesting. Well, Marta is a lot better than Sesko. Sesko has had a terrible start. Alan Thompson, often accused of being Mr. Doom and Gloom on the fans forum, continuing his great run by messaging in. No new training ground, no new stadium, sky high ticket prices, Eddie sacked by the summer, Tino, Gordon, Tonali, Bruno all transferred. The nightmare begins. Any good news going out there, George?
Absolutely.
I think he's had a nightmare. Has Alan had a nightmare? I've got a fear for the cat.
Absolutely a win tonight. That's the answer to your question. Why would you think by now we would have a new stadium? Anybody in their right mind knows that even when they decide what they're going to do, it'll when they put the spade in, it's still going to take another 3 to 5 years to get the place sorted. the training ground, the ground's bought, is my understanding. And if you believe the rumours on the internet, which is always a dangerous thing to do, the plans aren't far behind. So, you know, to take a project like Newcastle United, as they have in the takeover, and set out a 5-year plan, which essentially was a 5-year plan for sorting out the team, not every problem that there is. I'm, you know, optimistic as I am, I didn't imagine for 1 minute we'd be sitting in a new stadium within the next 5 years, even from now. It'll happen, but it'll happen in its own time. And contrary to what people believe, I see rumours that it's the council stopping this and it's somebody else stopping that. And I don't think it is at all. I think it's PIF stopping it themselves. The people in Saudi Arabia realise that this is a change for the next 30 to 50 years if they do it. And they want to get it right. And as our chairman keeps saying, he wants us to be number one. Well, if we're going to be number one, we want a number one stadium. And that's all part of it. And the more inputs that people want into it, about it being a multi-sport stadium, about it being used 7 days a week, and all that sort of thing, just adds to the problems that they've got. But I think it'll happen. But the answer to your many questions, Alan, is a win tonight will put all those right.
And if you should try motivational speaking, Alan, I think that's your forte. George, my better half live as that.
For undertakers.
I just don't get a job at the Samaritans, Alan. Pablo says, George, my better half live has asked how come you've got the name the One-Eyed Naval Architect.
Oh, goodness gracious. I am a naval architect by profession, and for a period of years, I was actually blind because I had an operation that went wrong, and so I lost my eyesight. And when it eventually came back bit by bit, I had a period of time when I could only see out of one eye. In fact, if I'm truthful now, I've only got one eye now that's particularly good. In fact, Mozart sometimes pulls me leg when I see out the match. She'll say, I was watching you and I could see you were only using one eye when you were reading such and such. So that's where the one-eyed naval architect comes. But I'm, naval architect by profession, a profession which I'm really, really have enjoyed all my life and still do little bits of work, even at 85, for people. And so it seemed not a bad choice when I was struggling with one eye to be the one-eyed naval architect. I have to say, mind, you will all know the Geordie Dentist, my son, and when he was young, he used, if we were anywhere and somebody would say to me, what do you do, George? And I'd say naval architect. And as quick as a flash, Neil would say, remember, they're the people that designed the Titanic.
Good crack. Stephen says, George, why do you think Eddie comes out after every game and tries to say everything's okay? Does he think we're a stupid fan base who don't see what's dished up in front of our eyes?
Oh, no, I don't think he's that naive. I think he's somebody who's trying very hard not to just blame players. He never puts players under the bus. Never has. Our previous manager was an absolute horror for doing it, but he's not. And unfortunately, in trying to be kind, he takes the flak off the players and takes the blame himself. It's as simple as that for me.
Good answer. John says, George, how on earth are we still in with some sort of chance of finishing in the top 5? And are you frustrated that we've completely failed to take advantage of the situation this season? Or is it not that bad? I mean, Aston Villa, with that win over us, put a 10-point cushion between us, between them and us,
Yeah, very frustrated because we've had opportunities this year that we've, in my opinion, we've thrown away. Games where we've been 2-0 up and we've ended up having to struggled to hang on to 2-2 at the end, and other games where we should have walked them. I mean, Wolves, come on. Did anybody really think that Wolves were ever going to score against us? There wasn't a chance. And yet we let the game slide away from us. It was just unbelievable. And we've had other games as well where if we'd gone, in my opinion, if we'd gone for it, we would have got the points, and we just didn't. And that's not one game; it's 3 or 4 or more games where we could have got something out of it, and we've let them slide. So, yes, I'm as frustrated as anybody. Though I'm Mr. Optimistic, I still am frustrated that we're where we are. When in fact, just by winning a couple of those games, we could be up in the top 4 already. It just is so frustrating. And you know, the Premier League in some ways, apart from maybe the top 2, has been wide open, and Villa are the team that's taken advantage of that, in my opinion. And good on them. I mean, I can't stand Emery as an individual, but you can't knock how his team plays.
Barry says, George, just interested in your opinion. If Gaz had gone to Manchester United instead of Spurs, do you think he would have had a better career?
Good question, Barry. One to think about. No, I don't think so. I think he went to the right place at the right time. I don't think he'd have been fared any better at Manchester United. No.
Okay. And Neil says, was George at the home game against Bastia in the late 70s when Johnny Rupp scored? I was.
Yes, so was I. Yes. Now there's a player. You know, people were going on about Van Basten and Cruyff and all the rest of it, but Johnny Rep was a hell of a talent as well. And many Dutch people would say that he was really the man that won them the World Cup. You know.
Okay. And George, did you ever meet Bob Stokoe?
Yes, a couple of times. And all I can say is, like so many of the older professionals, he was just a gentle giant and a real gentleman. And the little sort of chats I was involved where he was there, he just spoke a lot of sense in a sensible sort of way, as did many of the other players of that time, including people like Jackie Milburn and Bobby Cowell. And but Bob Stokoe was particularly nice, and you sensed that he was a good thinker about football as well. So it was no surprise to me that he decided to go into management. Least said, soonest mended about where he managed, but on the other hand, he did what he needed to do.
Okay, next question, and it is from Blue Rhythm Boy. It is. Let's not forget how long Houghton take the bed players in, the likes of Hall and Gordon. It's too early to write off new signings, especially when they've had no time in the summer and now no time between games. Would you agree with Blue Rhythm Boy?
Well, I think I was kind of saying that when I was trying to express my frustration at what's been happening. I've never subscribed to the view that we bought a pig in the poke with any of the players that we brought in. You know, Chow's the exception and stepped onto the pitch as though he'd been a Premiership player all his bloody life. Even when fans are on his back and saying he's not having a good game, Anthony Gordon shows enough talent and enough danger to for me anyways, to want him to be there for a long time. And I'll be amazed if he's not in the World Cup squad, for example. And I think Thomas Tuchel is quite a good judge. And the others, well, you make a good point about coming in at the last minute and trying to fit them in, and then no time between. It's an interesting one, but I don't think you can blame all of that. What you see, I mean, I understand, for example, that Dave Jones works 1-to-1 with Voltemada on being a striker in a mould that suits Newcastle. I haven't seen any evidence that that's bearing any fruit yet. But yeah, it's a difficult one. But I'm ever the optimist. I still think they'll come right.
Alan says, thanks, George and Steve, for answering my question. Steve, how did you know I was a Samaritans operator for a week before I got the sack? Suicides were on their increase for some reason. Not surprised. Stephen Kennedy says, George, my niece's husband is related to a French forward called Just Fontaine. He played in the 1958 World Cup finals and he scored a record 13 goals. Was he any good? And could he have made it in England?
Well, yes, he was good. I mean, anybody who scores that many goals in the World Cup, I do remember that he was a good player and well talked about. As to whether or not he could make it in England, it's like a lot of foreign players. Some do and some don't. I mean, we've had some brilliant French players, but we've had some real dorks as well. So I would have been surprised if he didn't make it in if he'd come to England and made it in English football. But he certainly was a tremendous player. I mean, 13 goals in the World Cup. I mean, that's close to the Golden Boot.
Yep, certainly is. Barry says, George, do you think Tino will leave in the summer? And if City move for him, or is it all press talk?
Well, hand on heart, I wanted to be press talk. But knowing Pep Guardiola, the way he looks at young players, Tino is the sort of fullback that Pep likes, and I would be amazed if he's not at least looking over his shoulder at Tino. The only bit about the Tino thing that slightly bothers me is he actually says absolutely nothing about it. Keep stum. It all looks like press talk, but on the other hand, I don't see him doing anything to stop it, and that does worry me a little bit, hand on heart. And as I say, he's just the sort of young player that Pep loves, as he does covets lots of young players. I mean, his comments about Lewis Miley after our game against them the other night troubled me as well. So yeah, it's not a good one, but the only bit that bothers us about is that Tino does nothing to stop the speculation.
Yeah, of course he may well sign a contract, so we'll just have to wait and see. Alan says, George, which player has disappointed you most at Newcastle in your supporting lifetime?
Oh, me supporting lifetime. Oh my goodness gracious. We had a number of players who came with huge reputations. We're going to set the world on fire. And one of the most disappointing was the winger we signed from Hearts, John Robertson, who went home because he was homesick. I mean, everybody was desperate to see him play, and never really got a proper chance because within a couple of weeks he was away home because he was homesick. And some more others with a bit of who we paid a lot of money for. Anderson, the Swede, he came with such a reputation. He really did nothing for us. He was quite disappointing.
Okay, finish off just looking at the team. There we go. Nick Pope is in goal. Back four, as you would expect. We've got, I'm saying as we would expect. There is a face in there that I didn't expect. So we've got Lewis Hall, who I presume is playing at left back. We've got Botman, we've got Chow, and we've got Byrne playing. Work that out then.
Wow.
Is he playing Hall right back? And is he playing Byrne left back? And is he playing Botman and Chow together in the middle, you would think? Okay. Tonali is playing, Willock is playing, Ramsey is playing, and Miley is playing. And Walter Marder, it's in Elanga. What is his lineup there? That's a strange one. On the bench, Ramsdale, Harris, Trippier, Wissa, Gordon, Barnes, Asula,
Well,
Murphy, Alex Murphy,
I'd,
Bruno.
I suggest he's playing 5 at the back. and we end up.
He's going to play Mate. He's going to play 3 centre halves, isn't he? He's going to play Byrne, Botman, and Chow. Miley on the right and Hall on the left.
Yeah.
And go with the 3 and the 3.
Yes, absolutely. That's what it looked like to me.
So Walter Marta in the middle, Alanga on the right, and Ramsey on the left.
And Ramsey has played on the left for Villa when he was at Villa, so that wouldn't be out. That wouldn't be off the park. But we're trying to. To me, we're trying to do to PSG what Villa did to us on Sunday. He's trying to swamp their midfield, which is their dangerous part of their team. And it really is an interesting 11.
Well, he's gone already. He's left all of these so-called flair players on the bench. Wissa, Gordon, Barnes, Asula, of course, to come on. Bruno, as we know, probably can only make, could only make 15 minutes, if that, 15, 20 minutes, but it could be an influential one if we're 0-0. My worst player was Dave Besant, the goalkeeper. I thought he was going to be a world beater. Cheers, Alan. Okay, I mean, he was the only 6'7" goalkeeper I ever saw get chipped as many times. Absolutely bonkers. That hour's flown over. Everybody enjoy the game tonight. I hope I haven't depressed too many. Muzza was depressed early on, I think, with the questions that Stephen and John and Barry were chucking in. But enjoy it. The Champions League is there to be enjoyed, and never say never.
Somebody asked about the officiating on Sunday. It was appalling, and sadly, that's the standard of our officiating at the moment. If you want the biggest change from the Wednesday night, the European game, to the Sunday, the Premiership game, the biggest change for me was the officiating. No fuss from the Europeans, lots of fuss from Mr. Gillett, the Australian. Yeah, I wish he would go back to Australia because he is awful. So there you are.
He's definitely not the best. He's not the best a man can get, that's for certain.
I tell you what, Steve, I'm going to give the lads a send-off.
Good night, George.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. Big thanks to Media Arts for all the technical side of things. And a thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel, UK Coach Holidays, established 2020. There are no strangers in our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. 2026 tours, 2 crew, driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels, no interchanges, hot and cold snacks and drinks available on the coach, all excursions included. Website www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. Big welcome to GC Competitions, a new sponsor. A day none of us will forget. This is your chance to win this stunning Newcastle United signed Carabao Cup final winners display with replica medal. For only $1.99 a ticket, you can be the proud owner of this piece of Toon history. The draw will take place on Sunday the 18th of January. Don't miss out. Get your tickets now at www.gccompetitions.co.uk. If you want to support the channel, you can hit the subscribe button. It's free. We do 7 shows a week. Hit the thumb up to like the channel and